drama starts. Lap 30, 8 laps to go. Sandobi hoping to take advantage of these lapped cars. Poleski dives on the right side. Very aggressive here. This is lap 4. The two Viceroys. Bill Frazier ahead of Matt Poleski. Frazier's off. Frazier hit the grass. You hit that tire wall, your day is done. Well, now it's lap 20. The Williams still trying to get around the Terrell team as he'll go around the lap car and around Mills at the same time. At the same time. He's got the inside corner. Will he ride the curb? Yes, he will. He will get him on the inside. Vito Maria leading us all into Moss's corner. Look at the beauty as his right side will cook the grass. Oh, a 180. No, a 360. Oh. Who will yield going into this corner? It's really not meant for too wide as it will be Gernot. Gernot will yield. Lots of smoke picking up from that Williams car. He is pushing it to the absolute limit. 26 of 30 now. Only 4 laps to go. He's going to get the run coming out the final corner. He's going to pull up side by side with the leader. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Who is going to get there first? It's going to be...
Barcelona's polished and wide pavement prepared for the likes of modern F1 may have spoiled our drivers, because after a billiard-smooth European track, they're suddenly thrust onto the crusty bumps of the concrete streets in the northern Midwest. Likewise, the large amounts of paved runoff they saw last week is now nothing but punishing barriers ready to collect anyone who steps over the line. We'll see who gets whipped into shape as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacher. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Steph, street circuits like Detroit almost seem like a dare to the drivers. How close to the edge do you dare to go?
Close enough to use every inch available, but not so close that you could fall off the road. There are tracks like Spa, Barcelona, or Silverstone. Then there are tracks like Sebring or Detroit. Extremely rough and unpredictable is the name of the game. Through these 2.35 miles, you'll have to fight more against the track than your opponents. The 14 turns marked out here before us will give plenty of passing opportunities to our fearless drivers. Car setup is always important in an F1 car. However, today it will be just that much more important with all the bumps, crests and dips in the road. If you're now wondering how one could possibly maneuver a Lotus 79 over these streets of Detroit, then we got the answer right here in the form of our GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC Lotus 79, so let's do a lap around Detroit. Down into 1 and 2, there isn't a whole lot of braking for these S's, but with the incredible power of the Lotus wheels, you've got to be extra careful over the nasty crest on the exit. All around this track, you'll get a great sense of how bumpy this surface is just by listening to the sound of the drivetrain wobbling out of nearly every corner. Turn 3 is going to easily be the most popular place to pass, but you've got to be careful because there's no room to run wide coming off of there. You've got a short burst on the power before you hit the brakes again for 4, which is more open than you'd expect for a street course. 5 is the opposite though. It's off camber and tightens on the exit, leaving little room for side-by-side racing. 6 is going to be critical, especially with a little crest on the entry. Turn in too late and you could understeer into the tires. If you're forced to lift, it'll hurt your momentum all the way down the backstretch. Straighten out these weaving gentle curves and then we hit turn 7. This is the only other decent place to attempt to pass, but it now leads us into the fountain section. Drivers will need a lot of patience through here, both with the throttle and with traffic. Expect the racing to be mostly single file unless someone makes a huge error. Watch how aggressive you are with the curbs though, because it'll be easy to upset the car. Also, 11 will be the slowest here at the end, so don't get caught out by trying to carry your momentum through it. Now we fly towards 12 and 13. The first corner will require a lot of braking, but the second one only needs a little lift before you'll be easing your right foot down again. From there, it's easily flat out through 14, and hopefully, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around Detroit. You see just how bumpy it is. You could hear that drivetrain bouncing around as it tries to get out of the corners. But let's take a look at our championship, starting with the Sunday Grand Prix series, of course. This is just these races that are counted that are broadcasted. Nor Lompy, because of his good results, other than the third round. is doing fairly well. Alexei Aloma would be up there with him, but in the very first round of the year, of the season rather, he got 1 point, and that's why he's not winning currently. Of course, you can see Matt Wood very close to him. He could be overtaken with Aloma's speed recently by Croft and Suarez rounding out the top 5. Let's also take a glance at the Teams Championship and see how that is going, Steph.
Yeah, true. Parmalat Racing Team there in first place. That's Bycroft and Taylor Racing for them. 117 points to their names, but right behind them, just 5 points off in second place, it's Kip Renault Elf with Wood and Simpkins behind that respective wheel. Then we have Scuderia Ferrari, 18 points behind Kip Talbosch Dunn, 24 points, and Fittipaldi Automotive, a very interesting name there, especially for Formula 1. It's 35 points behind for them. That's Toikala and Vaskilampi behind those wheels.
Yeah, the old Fittipaldi team, the Kapusucar cars, very famously sponsored by the world champion. Now, let's take a look at the race details of today, as we have round 5 of 12, of course, and 33 laps that they've got to do around here. That's a lot. It's actually pretty quick in this Lotus 79 that they can get around. They also have an incident limit in this series, which is important at most tracks, but around here you'd be hard pressed to try and hit that because there's very little grass around. If you get an incident, you've probably hit the wall and your day is likely over. Qualifying is underway, and we've got our provisional pole sitter in the form of Juha Norlampi currently. Wood just put his first time in, and that is good enough for second place for the moment. Trying to see where Aloma is. Looks like he's just coming around to finish his first lap. Again, he's been incredibly quick lately, Steph, and I expect, if not on pole, he'll be up there within the first few rows.
Yeah, it's 77 miles that these drivers will have to do in this race. And yeah, Alexei is fast, he's getting faster week by week, but the thing is, if he pushes too much, look at that time, a 19.552, nearly 2/10 ahead of Juha Norlampi. But the thing is, Alexei, if he pushes too hard, we have seen that he can fall off the track, and if he fall off the track here, as been aforementioned, those walls are mighty close.
Really is. We're watching Teemu Toika now come through the first portion of the lap, up through 4 and 5 there. I see Norlampi just coming across for his second time. He improves to a 19.5, and that is good enough to take pole back away from Aloma by 1600ths of a second. It is a very tight back and forth between our two Finns.
And Wood just comes over the line to take back third place from Nuno Moreira, but he himself is about 2/10 away from Alexei Loma, who is making his way now through the fountain section.
And we saw on screen, Gernot Frischa comes back for a round. Now he's not competing for the whole championship, but he's still out here giving it a go to see what he can do today at least, and that could interrupt our fight. His first lap was only good enough for 6. This is Aloma's response now. As he comes around the final corner up to the start-finish line, the number 5 manages to improve by a lot. Whoa! You don't usually find those kind of margins around here. My
Alexei
goodness.
coming in. Hi, hello, I take that. Thank you very much. Bye!
0.3 of a second difference between himself and Norlampi on that last lap. But could Frischa spoil the party? The DH driver and multiple times champion has got himself coming out of the fountain section for now. Just a couple more corners to go. Very tricky, tight turns that are quick with the wall right there and no tire barrier on the exit to soften the blow. He's good on both of those. A 120.1. Can he dip into the 19s this time by at least? Yes, he can. A 19.6. Not good enough for pole, but the second row for the number 1 car.
Yeah, and Juha Norlampi, you kind of have to say, best of the rest.
Ooh, Pablo Suarez. Remember, we saw him within the top 5 in points. Well, today is going to be a tough day. 19th with his second lap because his first one did not count. Somehow he must have gotten it off somewhere around the track. This is Barry West that we're watching come across the line. His second lap also not counting somehow. I'm kind of surprised we had two drivers who managed that. Must have maybe glanced the wall or something around the circuit. We've got a pretty big field here today, Steph, with, I believe, 34 drivers signed up. That is going to be very tough to get around this tight little space.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting. We have right now 29 drivers who have put in a qualifying lap, and those 29 drivers are within quick calculation 7 seconds of Alexei Loma. So probably traffic will play an issue in that fight for P1 if they catch that traffic in the wrong spot.
West was the last one to be able to get a time in, so everybody is set. No other car can get a time before the clock runs out. So let's go through our grid. As we mentioned, Alexei Aloma on the pole ahead of Nora Lompian, looking like he has plenty in his pocket to try and outpace him. Gernot Friesche could again spoil this party and maybe take the victory, depending on how aggressive he can get. Matt Wood would certainly like some good finishes and just get to the end to continue some consistency to keep himself in the hunt for the championship. Nuno Moreira starting P5 with Nicola Kochi on the outside of row 3 next to him. Then it's Steve Bycroft all the way down in 7th. Unusual for Steve to qualify that poorly. Peter Mikus, who has been very, very strong as well, starts P8. Alex Millward will be behind him in 9th, and then rounding out the top 10 is Tommy Unhola, who's had some frustrations this week.
11th only goes to Timo Teuka on the grid, and very unusual position for him too. Chris Baumann is going to line up in 12th place. Simon van Duyen and John Stevens are going to be lining up 13th and 14th. Daniel Banker will complete the top 15 drivers in qualifying. Alongside him will be Errol Koroglu in 16th, Pekka Kelahara in 17th, Timothy Reed 18th, Pablo Embrace Suarez in 19th. Why am I always stumbling over that name? I do not know. And Bill Tyler will be running out your top 20 in this grid.
Robert Simpkins starts 21st with Keith Herner in P22. Then in the next row, Marc-Antoine Thibault will be P23. Barry West, we saw his lone lap at 24th with Johnny Bell behind him in P25. Then you got Stefan Camper in the 26th position. Florian Nidell in 27th, followed by Paul Farrell in 28th. Nicholas Morelli, the last car to get a lap in 29th. Adnan Dizdarevich will be starting in 30th. Then you've got Kyber Botaro Mora in 31st, Michael Steiner, Michael Accord, and Israel Alonso finishing out the field in 34th. Israel going to be hoping for a better race in this Lotus than he had in the 49, unfortunately. Cars now gridding up. We're waiting for just a few more to get out here. Our pole sitter, one of those that now pops onto the grid. At this point, it is just Friesche and Alonso that we want to try and make their way out here. Looks like that's it. Time is up. So engines rev. Green flag is out. Alexei Aloma not great off the line again. He admits this is a weakness of his, and it is a right-hand turn for the first corner, but it switches back in his favor if he can get the launch over the hump, and he does, keeping himself safe. What about everybody else watching in the background, making sure that they all get through that dangerous first two turns, and it looks like they did.
Yeah, everyone so far so good, but here comes the turn 3, and that's a wreck.
Oh, and it's off to the outside. It's causing a big pileup. Cars are getting stacked up with no place to go. We'll get back to that in a bit. You can see it is just an absolute mess back there. Loma still leads Nora Lompi up at the front as they come onto the backstretch. Friesche still in third place, and Matt Wood trailing closely in P4.
Yeah, very unfortunate for everyone behind about P5, as there were two different incidents nearly completely blocking the road through that third turn, but that all happened behind Gernot Friesche, Johan Olampi, and Alexei Aloma.
I think the good news is it looks like a lot of cars just came to a halt, and very few actually had to take a tow due to damage, since it was all pretty slow by that point. But they're coming around to complete lap 1 already as we watch these string of cars. Just these low angles show you how bumpy it is, bounding over, especially these tightly sprung Lotus 79s. Aloma this time by 0.8 faster. Let's take a look at the replay. And we're going to watch Tommy Unhola. Remember I mentioned he was frustrated about how this race is going, or this week is going, rather.
Well, more stuff to be frustrated about for Tommy then, as he was one of the key elements there in those two incidents. Here we go, he's going to the inside.
Van Doon gets him.
Yeah, just...
Actually goes completely underneath him. And then on the outside, looks like Bycroft was one of those. I think he was the first one, actually. Peter Mikus got too much damage. He had to take a tow. Banker gets away from it. He was piled into it. Dizdarevich, Bauman, and West were all in there, as well as many others. And it looks like it continues into turn 5. Oh, no, excuse me, watching a different angle here. So we come back live. A lot to unfold there. I'm sure we'll get some thoughts from drivers afterwards where they get a chance to check that out. You can see that Aloma continues to pull away at about 1.3 seconds ahead of Nora Lampi. Still, we've got Wood within about 0.3 of a second behind Freesia. If he could get the launch out of turn 2, this could be a good opportunity into 3 here, Steph.
Yeah, and it seems like he did get a good run there, Matt Wood, but is it enough into turn 3? Probably not, as he has to stick behind.
Yeah, then you've got a lot of cars that are spread out before we get down well farther in the field, where we've got some action in 16th. Camper being challenged by Pol Fair. There you can see him on screen. Fair is on the outside in the red car. The black car gives up the ghost behind them. More action between Bycroft and Tebow. Tebow has been very hesitant about racing around here due to the bumps. He's been having trouble, admittedly, on his own, just controlling the car. And this time he's not able to withstand Bycroft on his climb back forward. That'll be P18 for the number 4.
Yeah, Bycroft, he has a little bit of right front wing damage, but it seems like it's not hindering him too much, actually. Is that car crapping ever so slightly? It does seem so, but hard to tell on the onboard.
Camper is his next target. Big bobble from Stefan as they now come into the fountain section. Gotta be single file through here. I'd be amazed if he managed to pull a pass somewhere along these corners. Oh, as Camper's going to try and think about the pass, in fact, on Pol Fair into 11. That doesn't work out. So through 12 and 13 they go. Camper struggling in this set of corners as Steve is climbing all over his gearbox.
And yes, Steve does have some slight damage on his steering wheel. He is turning to the left, so he got a big knock somewhere, probably the accident, on his right or left rear. But look at that, how much faster he still is with the damage. And here now comes Marc-Antoine Thibault to the outside, gets past Steve Bycroft. Does he also try for Stefan? Not really, sticks behind.
That's got to be frustrating for Steve. He was awful fast, like you were saying. He kept getting held up, if anything, it looked like, on Camper, and that's what slowed him down out of turn 2. A little bit farther ahead of this, we've got Suarez in there with John Stevens. Suarez managed to tiptoe his way through that opening accident and gained a lot of spots here up to 9th position. Let's see if he can hold on to them to help his championship hopes. You can see the damage of some of the cars around them. We caught a glimpse of Van Doon up ahead. Remember, he ran into Unhola, who unfortunately has been unleashing his frustrations on the chat. Nora Lampi, meanwhile, setting the fastest lap of the race in chase of Aloma, keeping him in check there, still within about a second of each other.
Yeah, Gareth Fletcher also not too far away, 2.7 seconds right now the gap to Alexei Aloma, but it seems like Juha and Alexei are slowly starting to check out for that battle for first place.
Oh, we've had a problem with Pol Fair. Remember, we were watching him earlier, and I think he's had a hard knock. Ooh, he needs to pull that car off to the side and take a tow, I think. Yep, there he goes. This happened in turns 1 and 2, all on his own, and amazingly, you're going to see a string of cars somehow avoid him. seen, looks like that was Camper, Tebow, Bycroft, Simpkins, and Morelli that just squeaked through there on the left side. Oh, and poor Bycroft's bad day is not over. Well, it is over, but looks like he got into the back of Tebow here.
Oh, you know what? That is quite some hefty netcode between himself and Thibaut. But yeah, it also was quite an opportunistic move by Steve Bycroft, not gonna lie there.
And he gets hit again. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out.
That was Robert Simpkins from behind, obviously not able to avoid that. But who is that screeching by?
Nidell just plows into him. There's a second group of cars after this one. There you see Simpkins' view. He does take a big hit into him. But Nidell, right there, you saw it in the background, just sent him flying. And I think that's a big reason why we saw Steve Bycroft head into the pits.
Saying Nidell hit him is actually Bycroft who just reverses right onto the racing line ahead of Nidell. So Bycroft most definitely frustrated by his own wrongdoings, or the netcode rather, and then just doesn't realize that Nidell is already coming up behind him.
Back to our leaders, the Loma responds to Nora Lompi's good pace, back up to 1.4 seconds ahead of his fellow Finn. Really, the closest battle for our leaders is actually down in fourth. Matt Wood, who before was staying with Friscia, has now been caught by Kochi, the Italian, looking to improve on his top 5 here. Boy, the attrition rate has definitely been racking up. I believe we've only got about 25 drivers still running. Chris Bauman, the only of those who've had damage, able to get back out and going.
You know, Joe, I have still been watching that P16 battle, and it's still going on. Morelli, Thibaut, and Camper. Right now, Thibaut and Camper side by side through the last turn. Camper actually giving up the position, and with that, Morelli too.
Yeah, I think he was tired of dealing with the pressure, figured it's better to just let them by. So Morelli continues on behind Thibaut as they plunge towards turn 3. And he's going to be a little bit too far back into this passing zone to make that happen this time. Behind them in 19th, Johnny Bell side by side with Barry West. As West still, challenging him, nearly getting into his side through turn 5. Hard to do that through that corner. Same thing, 4 and 5 rather. And eventually Barry West comes out the other side in 19th. Wow, it's rare to see a pass through there.
It's rare, but it can happen, as we just have seen between Johnny Bell and Barry West. Barry West also one of the cars that was a little bit involved in that first lap incident, as you can see on his left side front wheel.
I'm seeing very few cars out right now that don't have damage. A lot of bent wings out on the circuit, as everybody's just trying to make something out of this. But with that means that pace is going to be slowed and traffic is going to happen even sooner around here.
One of the cars in the backfield that I've just seen with a clean car is actually Keith Herner. He himself started 22nd, right now up to 14th, so a great drive by him.
There you see Keith got about 6 seconds up to Pekka Kalahara, the next one in line. And looks like we've got a little bit of time to talk to one of our drivers that unfortunately ended his day out there on track. And we saw some of Tommy's frustrations both in the forums before the race and now in the chat after his race is finished. Just a reminder, we are live, Tommy, so be careful with your language. Tell us what happened from your perspective.
Well, it was very simple. I don't know who it was in front of me. It was a white rear wing. I first thought he could not make up his line, but I think he just showed that don't go 3 wide and stuff, and I didn't plan to do that. And as he was kind of swerving around on the track, I slowed down and Yeah, not too much. I was going pretty much the same pace, but once again, cars behind didn't do the same, and it's actually kind of funny as that happens to me every time I slow down for incident in this series, and exactly the same thing happened yesterday, but guys decided to go 3 wide on that corner, so yeah, you can guess what happens there. So not a great week. I actually really enjoyed this track, and it's one of my favorite combinations. But sadly, it seems like well, yeah, you saw what happened. I'm lost of nice words.
Yeah, we understand why you're kind of feeling this way this week on screen. We just watched the replay of Johnny Bell having a similar experience getting turned around in the fountain section. I, despite the bad experience this week, next week when we come back, we'll be racing at Montreal, which is also a street course. Do you think you'll give that one a pass because of how things have been going for you?
Well, if I had to decide now, I would probably stop entirely and see how it goes. As this has used to be most cleanest and most respectful series in iRacing. Well, with Lotus 49. Also from incidents on lap average tells that, and racing is great. And of course, I have not done every series, so that's my experience. But this has been absolutely horrible, and on top of that, guys blaming me for stuff I don't know. I mean, someone who doesn't even watch replay first goes and call me idiot, and other guy says I take people out on purpose and doesn't even say what incident they mean. And actually, same guy is only one in this series that crashes on people on purpose if it's only one to get by. I don't know the name, but if someone has shown me to not leave space to someone, it's that guy. And yeah, I'm not very happy now.
Well, commiserations, sir. It sounds like you need maybe a nice drink and some relaxation to get your mind off of it. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you in the near future, and best of luck in future races, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, and yeah, thanks you guys, and enjoy the stream.
So we come back to fellow Finn Alexei Aloma there, still leading. That was DNF today that we were talking to. Tommy Unhola out early again, much to his ire. Up at the top of the field, it's about a second and a half between Aloma and Noralampi. Steph, down in the back of the field, it's been split up pretty well. The only pass I saw during our interview was between Banker and Dizdarevich. That was for 20th. We don't need to get a replay there, but the 21 moving himself forward, that's still involving Camper. There you see them on screen now coming around to start another lap.
Yeah, it is Detroit. It offers quite a few passing opportunities, but you really have to work for these passing opportunities to actually be passing opportunities. So you really have to know your car, your setup, your track, and how everything is.
There's another one. As Banker getting 2 passes and 2 laps, and that promotes him now into 19th, past Kemper. Kemper seems to be struggling. We saw him give up a spot a little bit earlier. He's working a little bit harder for. He's not just slowing down on the straight, but certainly dropping.
Yeah, Kemper seems to be quite uncomfortable in the long run with this car here, as it doesn't give up the position to Dizdarevich. So yeah, I don't know. It is a weird drag. Let's be honest. It does have some great flow, but if you're not comfortable with the car, and the Lotus 79 is a very hard car to race, no doubt about it, as Dizdarevich looks to the inside and backs out of it.
Clearly adding one.
Oh!
And that's going to be day over for Stefan Camper on his lid. Now he flips back over. And that was our leaders just going by. So, thank goodness he was out of the racing line in time. Dizdarevich doing magnificent to get out of the way as well.
Yeah, that's exactly one of the corners where you have to be confident on the throttle with this car, otherwise it is gonna run you wide into the tower wall, especially because the exit of this corner is off cambered. So yeah, and camper really showed what can happen to you if you're not comfortable with this car and track combination.
He was definitely dealing with some of that traffic I was talking about, but we've jumped over to John Stevens in 10th. He's chasing Pablo Suarez, P9. They're coming up on some lap traffic of their own. Nidell has managed to get the car back out. As we ride on board with John down into turn 3, they close up on him very quickly. Clearly that car damaged, so he's going to pull out of the way, trying to stay out of this fight. Nicely done by Florian. Not going to give Stevens the opportunity quite yet.
Yeah, great job by Knadel there to get out of the way with his heavily damaged front wing. Remember, he was the car that Steve Bycroft reversed into. So after some repairs in the pit lane, he is back out again to be the 25th driver scored right now, but it seems that there are only 22 left on the track.
They continue to drop like flies around here. Concrete walls do not have much give, especially against suspension and tires. Out of the fountain section once more. Stevens starting to look a little bit stuck without an opportunity for the moment to try and get by. He's going to have to set himself up or look for a pick somewhere along the way. Also got Nicola Kochi continuing to hound Matt Wood. This has been relatively close. They're actually, this is Gernot Friesche not that far ahead of them as well, about a second up the road. So this could become a 3-car fight to decide the last steps on the podium very, very quickly. Incredibly, we're only on lap 14 out of 33. With how many drivers we've lost, I would have expected it to be later in the race, but as quick as these laps go by, Steph, I can't imagine being down in the cockpit right now.
If you're in the cockpit, it's alright, especially if you have nobody around you. Like the guy I want to give a shout out to, it's Simon van Dunn. Yeah, 22, the number 22 car right now in 8th place, keeping it quiet out there, starting 13th, just doing his job. He's right now slower than 7th place, faster than 9th place, and just keeps on doing his stuff, and if he continues like this, he's gonna get a major points haul for his R rating.
You might want to go back to Friesche. They just went by the battle of Banker and Dizderevich, and this has brought those three together very closely. They're going to get around at least Banker down the backstretch. 2 of them is all 3. Yes, indeed. Now Banker's got to hustle to try and keep Dizderevich behind him as well, and just times it perfectly. So our positions stay the same between both battles. Tense moments, though, especially for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Going by yet more cars in the back marker positions. That's Morelli letting them through. Meanwhile, up at the top, you can see that Loma starting to pull away with that fastest lap. 2.4 seconds ahead of Norrlampi. Juha has not had an answer. I was kind of impressed, honestly, that Juha stuck with him as long as he did, though, especially the gap in qualifying, making it seem like Alexei was going to run away with this thing, Steph.
In these cars, qualifying is one thing, race is another thing. You actually have 2 different setups for qualifying and race, and they do differ quite a bit from each other. Normally you don't have that really all too much in iRacing, but especially in the Lotus 79, you do have different setups for qualifying and race. So yeah, it just seems like Juha had a little bit of a worse qualifying car, but comes race time, he is nearly up there speed-wise with Alexei.
Suarez back there in ninth, still dealing with Stevens behind him as they come out of turn 6. Slight crest in that corner onto the backstretch. Ooh, and Stevens looking like a pretty decent exit. It's not a very long straight, though. Is this going to be good enough for him to try something? Not quite yet. We might see some desperate moves towards the end of the race, though. So we ride on the nose of Stevens, rather. Looking ahead at Suarez out of the fountain section. I love the fact that this is in a city park as well, Steph, because all these trees lining the course really give you a sense of speed. Ooh, and a defensive move there from Suarez, rather, coming out of turn 13. So clearly not feeling totally confident. Once again, weaving back and forth a little bit. Maybe he got some damage on the car, hurting his top speed. Stevens not close enough. Now back onto the backstretch once more. This is where we were watching them before. Still another fastest lap from Alexi Aloma.
Yeah, Alexi is starting to really check out now. It's about 3.3 seconds at the line back to Juhan Olampi. So Alexi really, he did bag his stuff and is on the plane to, seems like New York City.
Yeah, certainly close to the East Coast over here as we watch the leader continue to school the field behind him. In fourth place, Matt Wood was close to Gernot Friesche, but some of the traffic they've been working through has dropped him slightly. And you saw that before this backstretch, Nicola Kochi was tucked right underneath the rear wing. He gives a little bit more space as he didn't get the greatest of exits off of turn 6, but the number 7 has been applying pressure since very early on in this race on Matt. Up to turns 12 and 13, we've already seen it take a victim or two. Not so this time for 4th and 5th position, down and across the line. Let's not forget, if they start battling stuff, Alex Millward, about 4 seconds back. You can lose a lot of time going side by side through corners around here.
Last lap, he was about 0.3 faster than Nicola Kochi. Overall, he is ever so slightly slower than the guys ahead. He started in 9th place, so he did already do a good job getting up to 6th place. But it seems like he really doesn't have the pace on his own to get up to this fighting group for 3rd place. But a car like Florian Kneidl, oh, that's a tire wall there.
Kneidl was trying to get out of the way. I talked about the crest in turn 6, and I think Florian discovered the hard way what it does to a car. That's more damage on the nose of that Lotus.
Oh,
I mean, thankfully he went nose in.
Woohoo, what a slide through turn 9 for that blue machine.
Watch the replay on that. You're on board with the Italian. Let's talk us through it.
Yeah, just look at how right outside where he's gonna get out of that turn. Look at that steering wheel, and there's the catch, and there he drives on.
Wow, caught it just in time before he clattered the concrete to the outside. Not many times you can get away with that around here. Because of that, he dropped off of Matt Wood. That gives us time to focus on Suarez some more because he's just about 2 to 3 tenths ahead of John Stevens. Still fighting for 9th place. This has been going on for many laps at this point. Oh, and Kawahara has come into the pits. Oh, excuse me. Well, he was in the pits before. I'm trying to figure out what exactly happened here with Peter.
Pekka Kalahara, and he actually did a vertical 360 out of turn 4.
Interesting. Not sure if we'll be able to get that. Let's give a little bit of love to Timothy Reed, and a driver I don't think we've really had in this series much, Errol Kuroglu, who has been chasing him for that 11th position. We haven't talked about them much yet, and Reed would probably like us to take the cameras off and get himself some space so that it becomes a boring race for him. But right now, the number 19 looking to try and run him down. Last lap by, he was about half a second quicker.
Speaking about quicker, that is also the case between Stevens and Suarez, up ahead of the battle we're watching right now for that 9th place, where Stevens tried to do something through the fountain section but thought better of it. But yeah, I think it's only a matter of time until Stevens gets past Suarez.
Well, it could take a bit of an opportunistic move from what we've seen. He's been very close, like you can see right here, and he's got to stay with him through 1 and 2. Question is, can he get the launch over the hump? Oh, he's starting to fall back just a little bit. Oh, this is looking good, though. He's decent off the corner. He's going to get a tiny bit of slipstream as they come towards the most popular passing spot here into turn 3. Deep under braking, but once again, this track is proving extremely tough to try and make overtakes.
Stevens missed the apex there ever so slightly, and if he would not have missed that one, that's a slide, and there's his past.
That's exactly what Stevens need. He pounces when it presents itself, and Suarez now falls back to 10th position. He could try and come back at him, and he's looking very good coming down into turn 7s. Stevens knows it. He tries to cover him off. They're side by side into the braking, but Suarez decides better of it and falls back again. Whew. Hard racing between those two, especially when they knew that the chances may not present themselves again later. So John Stevens and the number 17 now up into P10, or excuse me, P9 actually, because of us losing Kalahara. Jumping a little bit farther back down, Dizderevich still in this fight with Barry West. That's Morelli behind them. That is also for position. This is P16 that they're fighting for. Morelli way wide onto the backstretch, though. Coming through turn 6, that's going to lose him a lot of time. 79, excuse me, the Lotus 79 never did race in Detroit, but of course Formula One did used to race here, not at this track specifically, but downtown. And then IndyCar showed up, they shuffled it over to Belle Isle, and it has been a staple since, only taking a break a couple times over the years. Going to be 10 laps to go next time by as we glance up at Gernot Friesche. His break from the series has not seemed to improve his pace. 7 seconds off of Norlampi and 15 seconds off of our overall leader of Alexei Aloma. We're used to seeing Friesche dominate instead. Oh, and I think Dizderevich just got by West.
Indeed he did. What a move too. Through the outside of turn 3 he did it.
Yeah, West went defensive very early. I'm surprised he went defensive, honestly, and didn't quite pick his brake marker right. He gave space to the outside. Look at that. Brave stuff from Adnan to move himself into 16th.
And since you were mentioning the streets of Detroit, as that circuit was also called, that F1 drove on, I think it was one of the best moves IndyCar could have ever done to the Detroit circuit, because the downtown track was widely regarded as one of the worst tracks ever in Formula One, with constantly half of the field wrecking out of the race.
I don't know. It'd be hard pressed to be worse than the Phoenix track that they ran back in the early 90s. But regardless, certainly I agree that this is a scenic track. It's a difficult track, and it's proven popular with fans. I've actually gotten to go to the race here back in the late 90s. Got to watch IndyCar race here, and it is an experience. I was sat down in turn 3, even, where plenty of passes and a few wrecks happened as I watched back there in my teenage years. But no wreck for Nora Lompy quite yet, despite dropping off. In fact, dropping off significantly since we last looked on Alexia Loma. It's now 8 seconds up to the leader. The number 2 been safe and sound and just running his laps, knowing that he's still got a gap on points over Aloma. So no need to panic yet here, just about halfway through the season. Down to 9 laps to go now. Aloma weaving his way through the technical sections of the track. We've been waiting for something to happen with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th cars, and nothing really yet has gone on. In fact, they've spread apart slightly with about a second separating each of them. Looking at the comparison even between Freesia and Wood there. Looks like Wood was relatively faster for a few laps, chipping away small margins, and then suddenly they start going back the other direction the most recent 2 laps here, Steph.
Yeah, and it is an interesting development between those two. I'm not sure if it is helped by traffic sometimes, or if that is just a little bit of inconsistency by both drivers. After all, we are at one of the hardest tracks on iRacing, as Fritcher has a little bit of a wobble.
Timothy Reed just found the tire barrier in turn 3, and this was all on his own. He gets it going again. You can see the damage on the left of his wing. He was chasing Suarez. That's the red and white car you see in front, and just outbrakes himself.
Actually, that is a little bit of what can happen. Suarez breaks himself a little bit too late, goes too wide. Timothy Reed brakes a little bit later than Suarez and runs out of space.
A little bit of target fixation.
Oh, that's Koroglu.
Oh, when the newcomer gets it turned around in the fountain section, just as our leader goes by. Thankfully, he had time to get the car turned around. That is hard.
His lonesome, and that's actually an interesting wreck. As he turns in, everything is fine, just a little bit too wide, steps in the throttle, and doesn't realize how close he is to the wall.
Got a little greedy. Well, even though he did get the car going, I can tell you he's way off pace. You can see he's trying to pull out of the way of second place Nora Lompy. Thankfully doing a good job of keeping himself out of the racing line. We only have 11 cars left on the lead lap right now, and that might be 10 soon, because Timothy Reed looks like he's going to be lapped by Aloma soon-ish.
And another guy that is losing to the car behind is Simon van Doon. 8th place driver and getting chased down by John Stevens. Right now the gap is about 5.7 seconds, but at the rate it is closing down, there might be something up for grabs for John Stevens in the last lap.
And Stevens started equally as far behind as Van Doon. He was 14th on the grid, Van Doon 13th. It's really the driver behind them that has made fantastic inroads. I mentioned as we read out the grid just how shocked I was. The number 12 of Suarez was qualified in 19th. Well, surviving the melee at the start, he has climbed up to 10th. He's held onto it, and he's only about 4 seconds behind Stevens. He was in a fight with him before, so probably not going to catch him. considering he's fallen those 4 seconds back and he's only got 7 to go. Even still, kudos to that number 12.
Yeah, and Bill would say he's not the real hard charger of this event. We're speaking about Adnan Dishtarevich. Started in 13th, he's right now 15th. So also a very good drive by him, just staying out of troubles.
Yeah, no qualifying time for the 26, and he honestly might have been glad for that, being all the way at the very back, having time to react to the incident in turn 3. That could have been what got him through there. With Kuroglu having his accident, he's headed into the pits, and I believe Nidell will now be 20th once he gets through. I think he'll have enough laps, which will make only 20 cars still running out of 34 starters. Oh, did Suarez have a problem? Oh, no, he did not. Sorry, I thought I saw him lose a position. On screen, we're watching lap traffic continue to play a part in this battle to decide third place. Nidell getting lapped once more. Kochi looking like he's been struggling a little bit since earlier on here, Steph. He's fallen back to about a 1.5 seconds behind.
I think that's more Kochi realizing that there's nothing really up for grabs for him, not getting closer to Madwood or Fritsche, and also not really falling away with his own pace, just somewhat staying there on even pace with the two before him. So yeah, Kochi just giving himself a little bit of buffer if something happens up in front of him.
Yeah, smart driving on his part. Down to 5 to go now. Alexei Aloma, credit to him. He started this season looking like he could get a win and taking a little bit before he snagged his first one. Of course, having the horrible result at Brands Hatch, and then Phillip Island being just shy of the win after his own mistake cost him. And then lately, for some reason, the Finn has just been unstoppable, coming around to take 4 to go now. Today is going to be perhaps one of his most dominant performances, putting it on pole, keeping himself safe at the start, which he has admitted has been his main weakness in this series. And I have a feeling that this is going to be a very difficult championship for everybody else from the way that this race has been looking for Alexei. Timothy Reed has been lapped, and we're now down to 10 cars on the lead lap. Actually, Aloma catching up to Suarez very quickly. I think he might even get past Stevens, so we could see only 8 cars left on the lead lap before all is said and done. This is one, I have to admit, Steph, I tend to look forward to here in the Classic Teams Championship and the Sunday Grand Prix Series, just because of the difficulty of combining this car at this track. We don't have too many street courses here on iRacing, and I'd almost say this is probably the toughest.
Yeah, if I got my street circuits right now lined up, it is one of the toughest. I actually think that Adelaide is also up there with the difficultiness.
On iRacing, rather.
Yeah. Of course. We have Bathurst also as a street circuit, Montreal as a street circuit, but they don't feel like street circuits. In my opinion, also Detroit doesn't really feel like a street circuit, except for the markings on the road that you have now and then. It doesn't really feel like a street circuit. It's wide, it has narrow bits, yes, but it's for a street circuit extremely wide. So it is to some extent forgiving some of your mistakes, but you're not allowed to have too big of troubles around this circuit.
Riding on board now with Wood looking ahead at Freesia. This Renault's been staying right on his tail. They're getting a lot of traffic now, though. That's Morelli. Oh, this is a hard place to let people through. He's able to do it, but actually he's going to give up spots in the process. Those were not lapped cars. That's Banker, and who managed to get by, and Kochi, who is a lapping car. So Banker, somehow in the confusion, overtakes Nicholas Morelli for 17th. Not sure if that was intentional or if...
Bank ran into the wall.
Wow, we got away lucky with that one. Just a glance. Hopefully he didn't damage his suspension in the process. It's going to be very close to him. Down the backstretch, Morelli following him over, drifting to the left side. Banker not defending. He feels pretty confident. Oh, Morelli braked incredibly early.
Yeah, about the football field too early there on the brakes for Morelli. That was a little bit interesting. Means that Alex Millward now comes up to lap him, probably by the end of the next straight.
And Stevens did get caught. Van Doon, the next one up, going to be a little too far away probably for Aloma to lap him in the remaining lap left in this race because the white flag is coming out. Nora Lompe has suddenly just fallen away incredibly quick. 15 seconds behind. In fact, Freesia is catching him slightly. It's down to 5 seconds between those two. Too little too late at this point with the final lap being run. And the number 5 continues to put just an absolute pounding on the field.
16 seconds the gap right now is between Alexei Loma and Juha Nurlampi, as you can see on the left hand of your screen. Yeah, just extremely good performance by Aloma. No damage to his car whatsoever, and I think right now the way it's going, he could even do a donut, victory donut that is, and still finish ahead of Juha Nurlampi.
I doubt he'll be so brash. Maybe after he comes across the line. The Finn through the fountain section one last time. One of the more dangerous parts of this course. One of the thinnest parts of this course you were mentioning earlier. And back through the last few corners. 3 to go. Through 12. And then 13. And then the flat out turn 14 to the line. Alexei Loma, another win for the Finnish driver here in Detroit. Juha Nurlampi cruising along behind. In fact, continuing to lose a lot of time. It's down to 3 seconds. I wonder if he's managing his pace just to get to the finish safely. He will, and he'll take second place, minimizing the damage as well as he can. Freesia returns with a well-earned podium, but perhaps something to think about considering the hot shoes that have continued to find pace without his presence here. Cars on the lead lap, finishing, none are close. In fact, those who are finishing a lap down as well seem to have all spread apart here at the very end of the race. I believe our last driver to come across will be Van Doon, who is just now heading into the fountain section. So that'll be most of our field done here today. Let's take a quick break here on the Global SimRacing Channel and come back with your official results. We'll also have driver interviews. If you watch on screen, though, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Detroit. We are at the circuit on Belle Isle here, where they set up the street course in real life once a year. Here in the virtual world, you can race it anytime you want. And Alexei raced it in October to a victory in the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship. He was followed by Nora Lompe, 18 and a half seconds difference between them at the line. To me, says that Nora Lompe knew that he had been beaten and eventually backed off. Prix eventually caught up to within a couple seconds, but it wasn't really a gap that was going to eventually swap positions. He had to settle for third. Matt Wood taking P4, chasing Gernot the entire race and not able to overtake. Same deal with Kochi behind them, at least getting a top 5 for the Italian. Now, Alex Millward, a 6th place for him, quiet today, having started 9th. He'll probably be happy for that. Timu Toika as well. I don't think we looked at him since the drop of the green, taking 7th. Van Doon just managing to finish on the lead lap. Such was the pace of Aloma over the rest of the field. Then you get the cars the lap down. John Stevens, the first of them, one of the drivers caught up in the mess at the start, and Suarez rounded out your top 10.
11th place went to Timothy Reed, also 1 lap down. Marc-Antoine Thibault from 23rd to 12th place. He takes his number 18 car. Keith Herner finishes 13th. Bill Tyler 14th. Adnan Distarevich rounds out the top 15 drivers to finish this race. He's also the last car to finish 1 lap down. Barry West 2 laps down, 16th. Daniel Banker 17th. Nicholas Morelli finishes in the end 18th. And Johnny Bell 19th. 20th went to Errol Koroglu.
Last driver to manage to finish was Florian Nidell. He got back out and he was 21st. Everything beyond here, amazingly, is DNFs. Pekka Kalahara, Stefan Camper, Michael Eckord, Michael Steiner, Paul Ferrer, Steve Bycroft. That is disappointing. Remember, he is one of our top 5s, or was one of our top 5s in the points. He might not be after this. Robert Simpkins, 28th. Chris Bauman, Kleber Botaro Mora, Peter Mikus, Tommy Unhola, who we got to talk to, then Nuno Moreira and Israel Alonso round out the field. We have Alexei Aloma ready to talk to us. And I'd be curious to hear about what his pace felt like from in the car, because Alexei, at the start, Nora Lompe looked like he was keeping you in check. It was within about a second or two for the first maybe 10 laps or so. And then suddenly you were off like a rocket. How can you explain the sudden gap you were able to pull?
Well, I think it's been quite similar every race this season. Juha is quite fast in the beginning. He's usually been just a bit faster than me. But this time I think I had just a bit more pace compared to him overall. So it was kind of similar to me in the beginning, and in the end I wasn't losing that grip or whatever happens to Juha every race compared to me.
Last week, you told us about you felt like your starts were something of a weakness for you, and we saw that it was a little close coming off the line. How did you feel about your start? Did you feel like you were improving now that you were able to keep the lead on the first lap?
Well, this time I put a lot of gas, so I was wheel spinning quite a lot, but it wasn't that good. But luckily, here we have so short run into turn 1, so you really cannot make difference, at least not as big as you can, let's say, at Barcelona, where you have the long run down to the first corner.
That's true. That turn 1 comes up pretty quick. Now, you've actually had momentum on your side these last few rounds, now taking win after win. Do you pay attention to momentum and the psychological aspect, or you kind of brush that off and just take a race at a time?
Well, I pretty much race at a time. I'm not really like taking this in a way like serious, this like series in a way. But of course, every week I race. I'm of course racing serious, but I'm not like taking the points or whatever that serious. So yeah, I just do race by race basis.
Well, the good news is you can take it as sort of a bonus then that you're going to be leading the championship soon at this rate with another win over Nora Lompe. Again, congratulations on the victory. This is not an easy track to be fast on.
Yeah, the car was so good. Like, that feeling when you just drive and you kind of feel like you're the part of the car. You can control the car perfectly, slide, and that's okay. You know where the slide's going to end. You're not going to hit the wall. So I had that feeling today. So that's why it was so fun to drive here. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. That was Alexia Loma, our winner here today. And then up next, we've got Steph talking to the preacher, who seemed to fall off a little bit towards the end.
Yeah, Juha. Alexi was talking to us just now, and he said he was feeling like he was one with the car. How did it feel for you out there today?
Okay, hello. Yeah, Stefan, I wasn't one with my car, and I knew that this was the same again as last times, that I had only chance at the beginning because Alexi had a super maximum downforce car again, and it is very difficult to keep up the pace after 10-15 laps, and those perhaps 12 laps I could be around 1 second and 1.5 seconds, and maybe less one time or two times, but I could keep some pressure at the beginning, but then I knew that because he had a much better pace with a lower fuel, as we saw, his qualifying lap was amazing pace, and I knew that if I can't have a chance at those 12-15 laps, then that's going to be end of my story. If Alexi won't make any mistakes, and I know that he won't make if there is no lapped car who is going to make some mess, but I don't ever thought that it could happen, and it was lucky that then those lapped cars were very, very kind to us. But it was a boring race.
Boring race at the very end, about 2.5 seconds away from Gernot Friedrich, who came home in third place. Now, going away from Detroit, we are going to go to another street circuit. This time it will be Montreal. A lot of chicanes, fast average speed, though. How are you looking forward to that one?
Well, I'm looking forward to Montreal, and it is a very tricky track, and I know that Alex is going to be their fastest guy again, and we rest are going to battle each other, and I'm very glad that Alex is with us, and he's showing us the real pace, which is very good for our other racers, and for us, which are maybe so old guys that as I am, that he could be my son. My son is even older than he is, so maybe I could have some extra points for that. Well, but to be serious, I'm just cooling down now this season, and I have decided now that this season is going to be my last at iRacing, and I'm going to stop iRacing at totally, and I will sell my equipments and concentrate in the better and important things in my life to preach the gospel and spread the word of God.
Well, it is sad to hear that you will be gone from iRacing, but we will always remember the fun battles with you on stream. But yeah, Juha, as always, thank you so much for talking to us, and yeah, good luck in Montreal next week.
Thank you. I hope I can be there, and congratulations to Alexi, who's deserved this win, and also congratulations to Gernot, who is back again, and it was very nice to see also Nuno and those other guys here. So thank you for the good work, and God bless you all. Bye.
That was Juha Norlampi, your second place finisher, the Bob Ross of racing. But next up, Nicola Cocci talking to Joe Peak.
Yep, the Italian managed to top 5 today. Nicola, though, it looked like you were tantalizingly close to both Wood and Freesia, but never quite up there to be able to attack. I don't think we saw a pass attempt whenever we were on you. Did you ever feel like there was something there that you could have had?
Hi guys. No, actually, I think that's in the first half of the race. I could have been a little faster than Matt, but the difference was too little to try and overtake. I was few laps behind Matt at half a second, but in this track is so hard to overtake safely, and I just waited for a mistake in front of me. But with these guys, you can die of old age if you are going to wait for their mistakes anyway. So that of course didn't happen, and I tried to stay with them because I was pushing for all the race, and then that was the best thing that I could do, just like try to stay with them.
The elephant in the room, unfortunately, is the big wreck at the start, and uh, the sad news is it seems that part of the cause seems to be contact that was between yourself and Morera into turn 3. Would you like to offer your perspective on what happened there between you two?
Yeah, of course. I just like came here to say that I'm really sorry about what happened. I just tried to, in the first few corners, there was all the car very spread out, and I didn't have very clear who was behind me. So I just like to try to be in the less space possible to just avoid the people that are going to try crazy things behind me. So I was alongside him, and as soon as I saw that he was going to be on the apex of the corner, I just tried to brake with everything I had, but in that way the car just like understeered a slightly amount, and I couldn't be able to close the corner better, so I just like very slightly touch the the wheel of Nuno, and after that the collision is always a little bit wonky here, and it just like it seems like I was running, I guess, in his car at 200 kilometers an hour, so I just like jump out in the air, and that was the end of it. And I really tried to avoid the contact, but I couldn't do anything because we were too close, I think. And but still, I'm very sorry about the Steve race and Nunez race that are a good friend of mine, of course.
Yeah, obviously not intentional, and certainly I'm sure didn't anticipate what happened behind. I'm sure there'll be plenty to discuss between the community after today's race. But again, congratulations on a top 5. You certainly ran a great pace, sir.
Thank you, guys. See you next race.
Nicola Kochi, 5th place here today at Detroit, and that's going to close us out. Of course, a big thank you goes out to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage here. But we also want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Stefan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. Make sure and subscribe when you have the opportunity. All you got to do is go to our YouTube page. If you haven't yet, you'll know it because the subscribe button will be big and red. Click it. You won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. The next race is going to be up in Canada, just across the border at Montreal. That'll be Sunday, October 20th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.